Okay, let's start chapter 1. Let's start chapter 1 together, shall we? Now, chapter 1 is information system in business. In this chapter, we're going to have an overview about 3 things we're going to be learning in the coming 3 months. So you will have a lot of chances taking a look at different aspects, but in a very shallow manner. Even so, after studying chapter 1, there are 3 things here, 3 things you must master. Number 1, hang on, oh sorry. Number 1, okay. Sorry, I forgot to share the screen, hang on. So people online cannot see it. Hang on a moment. Let me share the screen first. Alright, sorry about that. People online, can you see the screen now? I suppose, yeah. Okay, I just started chapter 1. And I'm telling you that try to speak a bit softly, otherwise you get recorded alongside this video as well. Anyway, yeah. Chapter 1 will have 3 themes altogether, as I said before. One is after studying chapter 1, we should be able to tell the difference between IT and IS. IT is information technology, IS is information system. They look alike, but actually they involve different matters. So keep that in mind. Alright, ask yourself this question. Or after studying chapter 1, consider whether you can tell the difference between IT and IS. That's the first thing. The second thing that we have to answer after studying chapter 1 is we know how to use IS to gain competitive advantage for business. CA is competitive advantage. No worry about how it's spelled for the time being, alright? You're going to see the term very soon, competitive advantage, alright? I use CA to stand for it. Simply put, if I use IT to help in my business, can I make more money out of it? Alright? I mean, make more money in my business? Or more specifically, can I serve more customer? Or more specifically, can I serve customer faster? That's something you concern. And we call this competitive advantage. So you now gonna have an idea of tying the word competitive with effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness and efficiency. And in real world term, that would be, can I produce more? Can I work faster? Alright? That's something you have to keep in mind. And after studying chapter 1, we also have to tell the IT outlook. Sorry, hang on. I think I have to use a better writing on that because my writing is really crap. At times, it could be quite bad. The IT outlook or future. Alright? Alright. Again, it's crappy writing again. So maybe I write better. I try to get slower and then I write better. Anyway, so it's IT outlook and future is something that we have to tackle, right? This actually gives you more reason on applying this, right? Using it in your business, right? Okay, so let's get started and take a look at the learning outcome, learning objectives. Because of that 3 themes here, you're going to find out that some of the objectives like the application of computers, telling what information and computer literacy mean, basically related to the question that we have in mind in the first place, IT-IS difference, right? Once we have an idea how to answer them, basically we have a better grasp of how to say IT-IS difference in a much more IT or concrete manner, right? And then we have system introduced to you, right? All those things actually pave the way to take a look at analyzing IT to gain the CA here. Remember, CA is competitive advantage. All right. Oh, let's see. This one is not running very good again. All right. CA, competitive advantage. So this is the competitive advantage we're talking about. And by that time, you have to learn model. Thinking, all right? Remember, model is thinking. 5 forces model. That made by a person called Michael Porter. It's very famous during the 1990s. This changed the way people think of using IT in society and also in business running. And then the last objective will be about the job, right? The outlook, future outlook. That wraps up for chapter 1 altogether. All right, let's start them. Computers and information everywhere. I think you all know that. Why do you use computer? Well, I use computer because I can serve more customers. In another way, I can also reduce costs. What's the cost here saying? The cost here saying about I can employ fewer people. That's reduce labor cost. I can let people have my service in a much shorter time. That's the time cost saving. Time cost, all right? That's normally, all right, what we talk about cost here. I can also make people commit fewer mistakes or let my work with fewer mistakes, all right? That's the error cost. Because if we let a person do something, he or she got bored very easily and then not concentrated, and then error comes out. If I let a computer do it, or if I let you to do it, all right? We're actually having something like that before. If you go to the Welcome Supermarket, you're going to find out that we have a line there. People check out their grocery themselves, right? So if they make a mistake, it's at their own actual responsibility from time to time, right? That would be much more accurate. There's going to be less time that you're blaming the store, right? So this is also the cost. Error, human, labor, error, labor, and time. That's what they say about reduced cost here. Gaining competitive advantage in the old term is what? In the old term is you can produce more, you can work faster. Now, I'm stressing this one because in economics, we also take a look at these two most of the time. I'm telling you, in modern time, most organizations basically can produce more and work faster because of IT. So their competitive advantage will now be resting on whether they can let the employee have a good learning ability. So the next generation of organization competitiveness will be resting on the learning ability of the machine or the people there. Anyway, that's a kind of sidetrack here that I want to let you know. And online classes, okay, you see, we experienced something like that. We applied the remote video conferencing ability to businesses so that it runs good in such a way that we can run classes. Classes could be formal classes like that. That can be a yoga class, right? I don't know whether you have it before, all right? And exercise classes as well. Or a class that teaches you how to code, right? All the online classes make it applicable. In the old days, we go and learn something, right? Because of the COVID-19 that we fear that we may get the viruses, we change the way we run business. And grocery, of course, this is very prominent in Hong Kong, all right? We used to go to the supermarket buy stuff. Now we go to HKTV Mall and order something and then it comes to our house right away. Quick and easy, isn't it, right? Telecommuting, well, that's mean work from home. We experienced that during these 2 years, right? Quite a lot. Social networking, we make friends out of the Facebook. If you have one, you're going to experience that, right? And Twitter, yeah, a mini blog, all those stuff. And of course, the YouTube, we just can't live without it now, right? Isn't it? You can have no TV at home, but you cannot let yourself have no computer. Otherwise, you're going to let yourself bored to die anyway. All right, that's the many uses. I suppose most of us have experience over it, so it's not new to us. And this one is some example that given here, but you can forget about them and think about the example you see in the real world that have IT use. All right, and normally we ask you about example, and I hope that you develop your own example. So we ask you about example, you give it right away, and that would be easy, natural for you for recall. If you have to remember the example I gave here, that would be really, really kind of no good because then you run out of resources. And to remember some people example is not always the way that we can recall well. So think about the way we use IT. Have you used Autobus card today? If you use it for, say, NTR travel, then you're using IT. That's a good example of your use of IT. Right? If you have one of your family member in the elderly homes, and probably you now find that they will use the remote way to visit them, all right, through video conferencing. That's an example of use of IT for elderly home visit now. All right, all those stuff. All right, apart from the one that we gave here for Poly using YouTube. All right, for publicizing. Right, because YouTube like a TV right now for most people. IKEA use it also for advertising. But as I said before, this is just two examples that we let you take a look. Now, here comes the term to measure how good you are in computer use and how good a company use IT to it so that it runs smoothly, so that it runs in a way that it would be able to let it produce more and work faster. Now, the first one normally is applied for people, all right? For people, all right? We call it computer literacy. That means what's knowledge? Do you know a lot about IT? So when you go to the PC mega sales, you know what computer to choose from. If you are that kind of people, you are computer literate. Yeah. Do you know how to use the software? Can I use the Word, the PowerPoint, the Access, and the Excel well, so that when I go to the office and works as a clerk or as an administrator or supervisor, I've been able to function pretty well, pretty competently, right? All those things are what we use to measure, right? So computer literacy, therefore, is a measure, right? We always like to measure. In business running, we like to measure because we then be able to assess who I can get that person in a particular position, all right? That's measure, all right? That's why if I can measure that, I can put the person in the right position and that person will help in my business, all right? That's why we like to measure. And we also like to measure the IT use in my company, right? Because first of all, it's that one is actually a little bit more abstract because it's normally talking about the organization, ORG here. We are seeing an organization, a company, or you want to put it that way, a company. Normally, companies profit making, right? Organization is much more general. It includes profit making and non-profit making, right? So an organization, we want to see whether that organization use a lot of IT in such a way that it can help the people there work better, right? People, what's a company? When we study managing organization, we knew that a company is a group of people gathered together for a common goal. That's a company. So companies are people. When they are people, they have habit. I have habit, you have habit. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then if I work at around 7 o'clock, that would be my prime time working in the day. Maybe you work midnight, right? So your prime time working will be midnight, something like that, right? That's your habit. So everyone's had a habit, and the use of computer in a company is to search for the work pattern for the group of people in an organization so that we can make use of IT to help them work better. And that's why you say here is to generate and use of business intelligence. The word business intelligence, you're going to find out, is actually means the group habit, all right, of the people in an organization, the group habit. We will have it, right, from time to time. If you can know that, right, or you can make it happen, if they don't have a habit of working together, you make them work together as one piece, then your company is really kind of efficient and effective. We always have to let the people work in one piece in organization. And in business, we call it synergy. Remember, in managing organization, what is synergy? I just ask people, have they attend managing organization? Yes, some of them say yes, some of them say no, right? Synergy, what's synergy? Anybody want to answer that question? What is synergy? Or can I recall you with that one? 1 + 1 equal or not equal? Actually, is greater than what? Yeah, greater than 2. That's what we meant by synergy from time to time. They remember that kind of euphemism. That's a euphemism. That means two people come together, they can do more than two people work. That's synergy. Synergy, all right? In Cantonese, it's like, all right, synergy. All right? We try to find a pattern of people so that we can let them work as a synergy, in synergy, all right? That's what we meant by generating this intelligence. We generate them with a habit so they work in a good harmony. And then we make use of the good harmony so they can work together fast and produce more. That means they can serve more customer at one time, all right? And we measure that particular situation. So we know how much IT use will be the right amount, right? Can IT be overused? Yeah, it could be overused. If we use it in such a way that explore more and more things from employees, all right, or customer, all right, we may be actually tampering on their privacy. Right? That could be a overuse of the IT. So we may have to pull back a little bit. Otherwise, in some country that would be against the law, right? So that information literacy is actually guessing about the right amount of measure that we can put in companies. So the people and the machine work together well, right? Get along well with one another, actually. So if you understand the word habit, this one actually tells you. But we always like to define something in a technical term. So take a look at that. See how people in IT or people in business describe business intelligence. For the word habit, actually is mean habit. Right? It is the historical, current, and predicted views of the business working operation. Historical means the past. In the past, you're doing something like that. Now, you're doing something like that. In the short-term future, you're doing something like that. So that's your habit, isn't it? Right? But it's very definitive, right? A lot of people will not be able to use to it because that's, say, the view. The state of view. Right? So the status of your working in the past is like that. I have a habit of get up at 6, right? In the past, I'm like that. Now I'm doing something like that. Tomorrow, I'm more likely will be doing something like that too because that's my habit. So you say this business intelligence. Right? Working, right? Operation. In my environment, also producing new with that habit. So without the environment, you can have the habit from time to time. So the context, or some people like to use the word context. C-O-N-T-E-X-T, context. All right. So this is the definition of BI. But if you don't understand it, use the word habit in your mind. You more or less be able to associate it in a much more sensible human manner. All right. And that's why I say the textbooks sometimes help you on that is they really talk in different language. They're not talking about something really all that difficult, but they define it in such a way that would make you be able to not understanding it at all, right? So if you use to that kind of way of saying, you basically get that subject, right? Whether it's IT, financial accounting, economics, managing organization, they all have something like that happening there. Anyway, now this one is the purpose. Why do we need to study people habits? Because we want the company to earn more from the surrounding, use their employee to the most so they can have a higher productivity, right? They have a higher productivity. Right? That's why we say competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is normally associating with quantity. You see that in economics, right? And time. Right? Time. I'm trying to draw a clock here, but the more I put there, the more it looks really bad. So this is a clock, okay? A clock. So if I can increase the something that I'm producing, but if I am not producing something, just like Hong Kong here, which actually is a service industry, how do I say quantity? I'm thinking about if I can serve more customer at one time. That's about the quantity they say in service industry, because I'm not producing anything. I'm a hotel, for example. Can I serve a lot more customer at one time? Right. Can I sorry. Can I use less time? Right? Can I use less time doing one task? Can I use less time doing one task? These two come together, I will say I'm competitive. Right? So it's very economical. You can put it that way. This is an economical way to explain IT. So in such a way, you're going to find now IT actually, a lot of the terms they use there is actually borrowed from economics. They also borrow something from financial accounting that you're going to see later. Okay. All right. Now, let's take a look at this one here. All right. Let's take a look at this one here. Transaction pricing system. Transaction pricing system. Now, when we study managing organization, maybe later you're going to find out that people always use this triangle to represent one company. And in this triangle here, we have people here. We call them operation people. For example, you work for Circle K, you have as a cashier, your operation people. You go to McDonald's, someone take order from you, they're operation people. Someone clean toilet, that's operation people, right? Or security guard. They have many of them, all right, there. And also we have middle manager, that's supervisor in a store, right? And also we have senior management. So this triangle is quite good that it can very briefly tell you about the structuring organization. And most organizations is going to be like that. They have a lot of people working at the front end. They have fewer people working in the middle to kind of supervise or monitor them. There are very few bosses up there, right? Every company is going to be like that because they receive different salary ranges from time to time, right? So TPS is transaction pricing system. They normally would be targeting on OP, operation people. They are here to help the OP, the operating people, work faster and serve more customers at one time. What is transaction? Transaction, you buy something, all right? Exchange. One exchange is one transaction. Right? You go to the supermarket, you buy something there, and then you get a receipt. That's a transaction. That transaction later, you will send. Actually, in accounting, we call this a general ledger. It's a GL. You have one GL. Assemble a lot of the transactions together. Okay, you can assemble the daily sales of the company, and that daily sales, if you assemble for 1 month, that's going to be your income statement, and then it's going to be your balance sheet as well. So the GL is the foundation. The GL is reflecting the transaction there. So this one is actually borrowed from financial accounting. Now, every encounter of the single individual you put in a company forward and serving the customers, all right, they are doing the transaction. We want them doing the GL faster, all right, so GL pricing. What do they do most of the time? Front end, they record something down. You are doing GL also. You copy something down. That's why you see here, data collection. Simply put, copy. You copy something down and then what? You calculate a little bit for the customer. That's my pricing. That means calculation. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You have an autobus card this morning. Remember? You go and to the MTR, for example, or go to the bus, you beep it there. No, that's a transaction. Okay, that's a transaction. And then the amount in the card reduced. Maybe the trip is about $3. You have about $100 in the store value ticket. It's become 97. So that's the calculation, right? The receipt is doing the same thing. You have your stuff in the supermarket. You get everything there. You check out in the cashier, and then they help you to calculate all those stuff together. That's an addition, right? So how can I let that copy action and calculation action faster is what TBS is doing. it is normally made in such a way that it will be like about that mobile phone, so very handy. So those people front end can use it rather easily, right? And that's why you see security card would have one there to help them to check out in the sport. Some restaurant will let their waitress use it to take order, right? This is also a case, right? You take a look at 板小吃, right? For example, they use basically iPad and mobile phone to take order. I don't think this is not the only one. A lot of the some of the restaurant, right? They also do it that way. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Cost reduction. Cost reduction in such a way that they can employ fewer people. Instead of having about, say, 5, 6 waiter in a restaurant, I need only maybe 2. That's going to be enough. And they can copy the order fast and pass the order to the kitchen and let the chef work on it quickly. Yeah? So the cost of labor can go down. The time cost can also reduce because of your copy. You just kind of click, 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 everything's in the kitchen, and then the chef will give you the meal right away. And the error is also fewer. There's cost reduction. Well, one of the key things that you have to know about operation people, what's the features of them? They operate something really kind of step by step. Yeah. If you have worked as a cashier in McDonald's before, taking order really have a very good procedure here. You press this button first, and then you take the order. You press the second button, you get the sum, and then once people give you the money, you key in the amount, and then they calculate the change right away. So you don't have to calculate the change itself. The machines do it for you already, right? Structured tasks, step by step. That means operation people has a lot of time dealing with something step by step. So the system can help on it pretty good. And then we can have the minimal people working for the company, and that would help the company cut the labor cost rather substantially due to its automation. Isn't it? Now, front-end people, you give them computer use, that's a good idea. Naturally, you're going to find out middle manager would also need it, right? So this one, therefore, is what? As you can expect it, it is for, middle manager. MIS. The acronym for that is MIS, right? The full term for that is Management Information System. Now that kind of system is normally for middle manager. In other words, supervisor. Supervisor is like a small team leader. They normally have to work for a store for some short term or medium term planning. Oh, my writing is getting bad again because I try to write too fast. Maybe I should slow down a little bit. Yeah, planning. Short, medium term planning. What's meant by short, medium term here? Short term means maybe 2 weeks, right? It's a short term. Medium, maybe 2 months, right? So it's from 2 weeks to 2 months that's a short term planning. Would they, what's example for that? If you are Circle K, a supervisor, you always have to think about next week. How many boxes of chocolate do I need? How many boxes of Coca-Cola, soft drink do I have to put in the store? How about ice cream, chips, right? Or cigarette, all those stuff. Yeah. How can I guess how many I should put in the stock to serve for next week? I normally would take a look at this week sales. Oh, this week I sell about 5 boxes of chocolate, maybe 6 boxes of soft drink, maybe 15 boxes of cigarette, things like that. Then the next week will more or less follow the same pattern, because if everything's go normal, you more or less be able to cater for the needs. It's not only the stocks that you have to plan for the short-term future, you also have to plan people. How many people I should put in the store to run so that it can be 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? Maybe last week you use about 5. This week you more or less need about 6. If you see, oh, next week is National Day, so there's a holiday, You expect more people visiting your store. Maybe you have to have 7 members helping you. So you find this one, arranging people helping in the short-term future, arranging stock in your store, all right, is normally the case. Whether you're selling something, whether you're providing service, is always the same. You're running a hotel, you need that planning, right? You're running a McDonald's, you need that planning for a restaurant, right, isn't it? And that's what middle managers doing. Okay, that's MIS. So MIS helping them to do that. The first sentence of MIS is actually rubbish. Cross it out because it says it's hardware, software, technologies, data, process, and human beings. The question is every system is actually like that, so it's actually talking crap. So cross it out. But this one is important, right? Apart from knowing that MIS is helping the supervisor to do short-term or medium-term planning, we have to know how that system helps. Well, if you are a supervisor in a 7-Eleven store, okay, the first thing you need to know is you want to have the report of this week's sales, right? Otherwise, you have no idea, blank idea about how to plan for the coming week, isn't it? Therefore, the first criteria of information they need would be timely. You have it or you don't have it. I have this week's sales report. I don't have it. I don't have it, then I have to make a wild guess. I have it, I have more kind of a limit of how much I have to order for particular items or people planning, right? If I have this week people work time card, I more or less be able to figure out next week I more or less need that number of people helping me. So timely is the first things that middle manager normally need, all right, in an MIS. So they always give information. And the information is also the second thing that required by the middle manager is they can be understood. We call it integrated, understood. So they understand what it is. Right. It's not talking about something foreign language. It's something that they know what it is. And then it's also related to the task. The task is planning, related. Right? That's relevant. And then they talk about accuracy. Right? The last thing is accuracy. So if I have a piece of information about this week's sale, but it's not very accurate, would the middle manager take that? The middle manager will be happy to take it because it's better than none, isn't it? Right? So timely, therefore, comes first. Now this one here, the order is a must. It's always timely, integrated, relevant, and accuracy. Don't reverse it, otherwise it's be a totally disaster. Imagine, if I want everything to be accurate before I let people to plan, that's ideal, but then maybe you have no report, and then the people cannot work, all right? And that's why accurate, even though this is a very good virtue, from time to time, it is also a very expensive cost in production, right? So we leave it to the least, right? Now, MIS for middle management always have to do the action quick and fast. And therefore, for MIS system, they would be like a driving board. Everything is actually put in the same place all the time. So that when the middle managers see a particular item is going down, for example, oh, the chips are going down, I have to order more, then they can react right away. And therefore, MIS is always very format oriented. If you have experience driving before, if you used to a particular car, or if you experience playing the driving game, TV game, you're going to find out the first time you drive that is actually a rather clumsy, but the more you drive on it, you're going to know, okay, when I find the field is going down, I have to slow down. When I'm turning the corner, I have to do certain stuff. Yeah, all the things placed in a manner that the more you look at it, you're more used to it, and then you just kind of have a glimpse over it, and then you can react right away. So this is MIS. They are always like a board, right? Always take the information in a fixed position and facilitate middle manager to react quickly to the changing world because they have to make decisions in a very quick and short time period. And we found that MIS is actually using in private and public sector alike. Okay, so this is MIS. They do a little bit of analyze. The analyze here is talking about the trend. Right? That means if I have this week things, I can project for the next week. And in your mathematics, we call this regression, linear regression. Remember, by the end of the term in math, you learn it. This is also what MIS is always doing. They do simple linear regression, LR, linear regression. Or they sometimes do multiple regression. That means they're projecting to the future. That may not be right, but that gives you an idea how to act in a certain limit that you're making an intelligent guess rather than a wild guess. Okay? All right. I think that's about MIS. We still have one more up there. This is actually, if you can still remember, in an organization, we have operation people. Yeah, they need computer to help them work faster. We have middle manager to do some short and medium term planning. And you're gonna know, okay, we actually have also the what? The senior management. They also need computer. The computer that they use would be decision support system. And this is what we'll be learning in chapter 12. So in chapter 12, later in chapter 12, we'll be exploring some system that will be mainly used by senior manager. If you want to get a glimpse or taste about what those people use, what kind of system they be using, I would advise you to play some game like SimCity, SimWorld, SimFarm. That would be like that. Because that kind of people make long-term decisions. Long-term means 6 months or 2 years at most. So they like the world to put in the game context. So if I find all the people, what would my business be like? If I grab this company alongside with me and merge together, how would that be look like? They want to have a simulation of thinking about the future so they can decide whether I should invest on it now or I should do something else. Okay? So that SimCity, SimWorld Club is actually some kind of system like that. And we're going to explore more on that in chapter 12 later. And they're normally used by the senior management. All right. I think this introduction is good enough. And then we can move on. Okay. The next thing we have to take a look at is information system dissection. How do we know if a company has information system? Well, if we find a company has data, database, process, and information, we more or less think this company has computer used in them. Information system means IT using in a company, all right? IT used in a company. And we find some trait, some features of it. If a company don't have data, process information and database, especially database, we normally think that they don't have information system. Well, this one is sometimes very hard for us to get it memorized. Maybe we can think it in this way. We relate them so that we can remember it better later. Okay? If I say data is D, process is P, information is I, database is DB, then I can say, okay, D go to P, and P go to I, and then this one will go to DB. All right, DB, sorry. I read it wrong. It should be DB. All right, D, sorry. I write it like P, right? So I want to write D, all right? DB, all right? Okay. That would make more sense to you to get it memorized. Data, what is data? Data is something unorganized, all right? Unorganized, just like the room unorganized. All right, before the Chinese New Year, a lot of the houses will probably have to have some kind of cleanup, right? Because the room is chaotic. So data is that kind of situation, right? No order there. Process is to give an order to it. You organize it into different groups. That would be process. You go to the supermarket, buy something, and then you're going to find out, oh, all the soft drink will be one category. All the vegetables will be one category. Yeah? All the chips or snack will be one category. Now, this is process. Yeah, this is process. And when you are making a financial statement, yeah, in an income statement, right? You have asset, liabilities, things like that. Yeah, office expenses or overheads. They are actually process. You categorizing something, putting something into category. That's process. For process there, therefore, that got two things normally, three things at most. Ordering something from A to Z, from big to small, from small to big, right? Categorizing something, that process. And what else? Do a little calculation over it, adding them together. Yeah, adding them together. That's normally the case. Doing some subtotal in accounting, for example. So process normally is ordering, categorizing, and simple arithmetic. That means addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Nothing complicated. That's it. Full stop. Right? Don't underestimate these three actions. They are very powerful. Once the data go through that ordering, categorization, a little bit of the calculation, they're going to be very ordered, and you understand it much deeper. And this is what we call information. The report we normally like to see, the financial statement, the cash flow statement, right? All those things, they are basically got information because they put in category, right? They put in category. But if you're working on those things, you don't store them in a nice way, then sometime later it will be lost forever. And that's why it's nice that we put it in a wardrobe or in a cupboard, that sometime later, if we need it, we can take it back and have a look. And that's the concept of database, data storage. So you store something, you already turn data into useful information, and you want to refer to it later, you will be needing a database. You will be needing a database. And that's why when we see an organization would have something stored in the database, we more or less be able to identify, oh, this company has IS happening in it. Okay? And then you're going to find out they would have hardware, software, people, right? Right? This is the addition. But the most important thing is they have these, right? Therefore, if you can relate all this DPI, DB, all right, that basically you can define information system, all right, by the way, because information system basically is made up by them. That's why we call it component. Then just like you take a frog here and cut it open into different pieces, right? So data is the first stuff we see because the world we see is data normally, right? Whenever we are not organizing it, they have no order, no category, they would be data, right? So they are chaotic. And we want to categorizing them, that's why they would be called as input of a system. So we put them, all right, and try to mingle with them. How do we have data? We have three ways getting the data. Way number one, we can see data by sources. All right, is this from your company or from outside the company? So this is very easy. You can set a boundary for your company, and then you can define your data. Is this from your company or outside the company? So if you say your company will be your own staff only, you can have sales, personal data, separate out against customer, competitor, supplier, government data. Now, don't think this is always a must. Don't think this is always easy. For some company now, they would include customer as part of their company. All right. If this is the case, their internal data will include customer data, personnel data, sales, financial data. Okay. So it's not always the traditional view that we see a company is a company, because the company actually having a broad boundary, especially in the information age that we are actually including a lot of things to the system, right? And the Netflix, if you have experience watching Netflix is including customer, government, intervention, all right, competitors input into their system. So their internal data is actually a lot, which actually has customer, competitors, and government as well, right? So different companies define their own scope differently, and you have a better idea over it, then you will know where your data is from, right? So this is a traditional way of seeing data, but briefly talking, you can have internal, external. Way number 2 to look at data is by time, all right? How new it is. Is it very updated? Not updated. Just like you're reading newspaper, right? Just like we are reading newspaper. It is from the past, from current and future. There we can have 3 different type of data, and then we can organize them a little bit. That's much more natural to us. And then we can also see data in terms of forms. Are they summary report or are they single pieces? All right, that's what we are talking about. Aggregator, disaggregator. Aggregator normally in summary. If someone gives you the daily sales or the monthly sales, all right, of the shop, all right, that would be aggregated data, and then it would be listing out for you. Okay, soft drink, how many consumed last month? All right, maybe tobacco, how many they consumed last month? Chips, maybe canned food, or some other stuff like that. Okay. If I break it down, what would that be? That would be the single receipt, right? That every customer is holding in their hand, right? If this is the daily sales thing or monthly sales thing, that would be called disaggregated. So disaggregated are the very detailed GL or the detailed transaction. Disaggregated is normally the data, the transaction, or in accounting, that would be the single GL. Right? Sometimes we have to break it down and regroup it to look at data in a different view so that we have more insight drawn out of it. And therefore, we can always regroup and break down data in such a way that we can invent or form new information. In other words, we also form new insight out of the things that we have. All right, I think that wraps up for everything we have to talk about today, and I'll stop here. Next time we can carry out with database, all right? Yeah, more or less we stop here then.